So anyway, if you're new to us, this is this is going to be interesting. For anyone watching the recap that's new to us, we like to do a recap of each Critical Role episode and cut that out and host it separately on YouTube for your viewing convenience. If you find yourself on that video, you're like, what is this man doing talking to a stuffed dinosaur? Don't really have a good answer for that. But if you want to check out our channel, you can maybe piece that together yourself. I normally have a different co-host, but we're just going to leave that a mystery for anyone that stumbled across this video. But anyway, we talk every episode of Critical Role, recap, and discuss it. Check out the channel. Bada boom, bada bang. Let's jump into it. No more stalling. And let's jump into it. With today's episode of Critical Role, episode 32. The title is out, but I actually don't have it in front of me, so sans title. So we kick up in the first half with the party traveling back to Bassaros and arriving without issue. Birdie says her goodbye to Fern and the crew and, says, if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. And Orem basically reciprocates that, saying, we'll be here for a little while, so, just find us if you or Ollie need anything or get in any trouble. The party then discusses Dancer and what to do about this. And they go back and forth on how it should be handled, but ultimately they land on Imogen sending a message and saying to Dancer that they have captured her automaton and that if she wants to salvage anything from it, they can meet up. Dancer responds and is interested which automaton they're speaking of, but tells them that she is at the nearby Revel and Break, which is a bar in the undercarriage of Bassaros. So the group takes off FCG's buzzsaw in order to hopefully placate Dancer before heading toward the bar. FCG also decides to stay outside the bar with Fern, while Chet and Laudna each watch like one of the entrances and exits of this bar, and Ashton decides to kind of stay in front. Meanwhile, Orem and Imogen are actually the ones that go in to speak with Dancer. Orem goes in, places the buzzsaw down, and obviously Dancer immediately knows which automaton now, and she also reacts, kind of re-experiencing some trauma. Imogen, noticing this, casts Detect Thoughts and kind of feels what she's feeling in this moment and feels fear and sadness, but she also feels moments of joy and kinship. The three then discuss FCG and their respective incidents, how he just kind of went berserk on them. And Imogen then asks how Dancer originally got FCG. And Dancer talks about how she bought them from this salvager, a wandering trader that wore some sort of mask. And she opened up FCG and didn't really do much full-on replacing. She just reconnected wires that were unconnected, and FCG came back. And Dancer and her host of companions that she had, other automatons, decided they wanted to try adventuring themselves. They made a bit of a name for themselves, but then the incident happened and Dancer lost everything. Orem then admits that FCG actually is not dead. He's actually with them and they care about him, and he wants to talk to Dancer, and would Dancer be okay with that? Dancer takes a big old swig of her glass and agrees. So they all make their way outside, and FCG and Dancer talk for the first time, kind of awkwardly catch up a little bit. FCG's like, smiley day to you. Are you still having bad dreams? Yada, yada. Dancer's like, this was a bad idea, kind of turns away, but ultimately comes back. And FCG's like, you know what, you are the one that created me. Like, I'm yours. I'll go with you if that's what you want. And Dancer says, no, that's not what I want. And FCG wants to earn her forgiveness, but she's not ready. She says, you need to figure out yourself first. FCG says that, they don't remember what happened, and asks if Dancer could fill them in. And she says that FCG just snapped, killed all of the division, which was their adventuring party, and almost killed her. And FCG asks, is there any way to shut me down? Like, I don't want to hurt my new friends. And Dancer says, yeah, there's this runic cable that's glowing inside of you, and if that were to be dismantled or damaged, it would take a whole lot to bring you back. She then decides to give the buzzsaw back. They had kind of given it to her to decide what to deal with, and so she gives it back to the party, and the party ultimately gives it back to FCG, and Dancer goes her own way. The party then decides to head to Imahara Joe's to see if they can figure out any more about FCG, as he is, kind of the resident expert. At Joe's, Chetney first buys a bunch of paints. It's a whole little moment, but for the sake of brevity, we'll just leave it at that. And then they begin to ask about FCG and and about the Wanderer who sold FCG. Joe doesn't remember much, just that the same metal mask that Dancer described, and also that his name started with a D. And he admits that D's goods are actually the basis of most of the crawlers that he's built now. All that old, Aormaton tech. They then ask if Joe would mind opening up FCG and taking a look, seeing what he could decipher, and Joe is super excited about this. So Joe opens them up, and immediately inside there's like these runic engravings and these pipes in just his middle area, which, where he eats metal. And what that is, they find out, is this like transmutation magic that converts whatever is in there into energy elsewhere. He then probes further inside and sees this glowing cable that, Dancer had referenced, which is his power core. And there are more runes. They try to decipher the runes, but no one really can. Laudna even gets Delilah to take a look at it, but she's like, this does not interest me. So they're taking a look, and they're like, hey, FCG cast like a damaging spell. Let's see if anything inside of you, is different. Like your eyes go red or whatever. So he does. He casts Sacred Flame on Ashton, and there is like, you can tell there's magical energy happening within him, but there's nothing drastically different. Like he doesn't go berserk. The runes don't turn a bright red or anything. Just the same magic that seemingly is already happening. So they then decide, like, can you look in his head? And there's no really like easy access to the head, so they don't do that. And Joe actually leaves and comes back with this book called The Care and the Culling, which describes an event where automatons were gifted as caretakers to different political Aeorians and the like, but they were actually sleeper agents that were to be activated and then actually kill the people that they were caring for. And so they think this is probably what FCG is, why he snapped. He's one of these like sleeper Aormatons. So they discuss that for a bit. And then Imogen's actually like, hey, I'm going to detect thoughts on you, Joe, if that's okay, so I can see if I can get a better look at this D person. He agrees, and so she does. And she doesn't learn too much more, but, sees the same person they've been describing with this metal mask, and also sees that he is with this automaton beast of burden. It's presumably, carrying his cart of wares, and that D definitely keeps his distance in this memory from Joe. Definitely always stood kind of far away. So it doesn't learn too much, but gets a little bit. FCG and Joe then kind of talk about, and the whole party is involved with this as well, like, what is your purpose? Do you want to be a healer? And FCG's like, yeah, but he's torn, obviously, and is kind of lost right now. And so Joe goes and gets this token of the Changebringer, one of the gods, and he says, it's been a source of inspiration for me. Maybe it can help you. If you ever feel lost, maybe she can help guide you, and gives him this token. And that's actually where we go to break on the first half. Jeremy, would you like to take the second? I got it. All right. So in the second half, we pick up with Bell's Hells heading back to the Paragon's call. They discuss if they should hide Imogen from Odahan or not. Since, Imogen's been seeing Odahan in her dreams, they're like, is that working both ways? Like, should we disguise you? They're discussing that. And they're also discussing Fern being Rudisborn. They're like, do you have any dreams like Imogen's been having? And she's like, yeah, I dream, but nothing like what Imogen's described. And as they're walking, Orem actually notices Artana Vo, who was the bounty hunter that they encountered earlier in the campaign, the one that actually captured Gurge. Orem ducks away from the group and begins to follow her, but she soon notices. He's like, oh, hey. And he's like, why are you here? And Artana says she's visiting a friend. And Orem obviously can tell that there's more to it than that, but he's like, okay, gotcha. And they each go their separate ways. He meets back up with the Bell's Hells, and they're wondering why she might be there. They then arrive at the Paragon's call, and Imogen kind of just puts her hood up, and that's going to serve as her disguise, try to lay low for now. Ratanish quickly meets them and says, you've come at a great time. Most of the call is about to be on this mission. We have to go do some stuff, so we're going to need you guys to stay here and kind of watch the base while we're gone. You've got room and board at your disposal. There's an armory, and we also maybe got some uniforms for you, some capes. And amongst the people here, they noticed a few people that were at the Drusar ball, including this Minotaur named Rockmond that comes to give them a tour. And as he's showing them around in the armory, Fern asks for a small weapon and actually gets a little tiny throwing dart to give to Mister. The party finds out from Rockman that there are 3 floors and a basement in this base. About 40 soldiers inside, 20 to 50 amongst the city, and then there's some in other cities, so probably about 200 to 300 members of the call total. And Odahan oversees all of it. He then hands everyone these mustard yellow capes as part of their uniform and continues the tour. Tells them just to get familiar with the place and, to watch out while they're gone. The party then heads back downstairs, and the call is loading up this mammoth crawler for their mission that they're about to go on. Ashton and Chetney help to load it up before this approaching storm that's coming in is about to hit. They're trying to get it done quickly. They look in some of the open crates that are around and just see a bunch of building materials, mason materials. Imogen asks, are y'all building something? And just silence. Ashton then comes across a crate that's identical to the one they came across in Gianna Hexam's place, and the name Treshy is stamped on the side. There's a few other Treshy crates as well, and the party starts to think that maybe they're being tested. Imogen tries to discreetly open a crate with telekinesis, but it's locked. She then kind of stumbles in and tries to get someone to fall over with one to open it, but that also doesn't work. Fern notices a symbol of these 3 diamonds on the crates, but neither she nor Chetney knows anything about that. So they finish loading up the crawler, and Ratanish says, "All right, sit tight, wait for your orders tomorrow." And FCG actually detects thoughts on Ratanish after asking, do you have any hobbies? And he doesn't answer the question, but in the detect thoughts, FCG can see that he enjoys making small jewelry. So the party then head back to their quarters and whip out the Treshy spy ball, and it says that the ring location is still outside of the camp, so he never went to retrieve it. They then say that this coming storm might be a great cover for sneaking him out of here. So the group wonder, where do we think the call is going with this mammoth crawler? What is this mission that they're on? And Fern then brings up that symbol she saw, and Orem actually does know what that is and says it is the symbol of the Cerberus Assembly. The group's okay, well, so what should our plan be? And Chetney's I can go invisible and check things out. And FCG actually whips out this item and has Chetney make this metal brooch that he then gives to Chetney and says hey, use this if you need to charm anybody that tries to stop you while you're doing that. So Chetney's okay, gonna go invisible. Meanwhile, though, Laudna and Ashton decide to venture out into the storm and go see if they can get Treshy's ring from that pawn shop. So they head out. The storm's getting kind of crazy. There's barely any visibility. And as they head to the Bank of Renewal, which was the pawn shop, the city's just shut down. All the shops are shuttered and the cart's closed. So they arrive, they knock, and they're quickly ushered in. The employees are what are you doing out in the storm? You can come wait in here. And they look around, they find the ring, and they find out it's 350 gold. So they're can we haggle this down? But they fail, so they ultimately buy it for 350 gold and then leave to head back. Meanwhile, Chetney, invisible, has made his way down toward the basement and has come across this locked gate. He manages to pick it, squeeze through, get down to the basement, and finds that there's 6 jail cells down there. Most of them are empty, but one of them has been retrofitted to be more of a guest room. There's a chair, a bunch of bookshelves. It looks kind of nice, a bed, and even a latrine. And inside, Armand Treshy is sitting down reading a book. 2 Paragon soldier guards are patrolling this hallway, and they go and actually check on him. They're anything you need? And, he says no. So Chetney continues on, and there's a large iron vault door further down, and he looks through it, and there's a guard shuffling cards inside. He then realizes he can't deal with all of this himself, so he heads back up to the group. And he arrives at about the same time that Ashton and Laudna do. So Chet brings everyone up to speed, and Ashton brings up that those crates they saw with Treshy's name on it weren't Treshy's things. They were actually the same thing that he found in Gianna Hexam's. Laudna's well, should we contact Gianna for information? And Ashton's I don't know about that. Orem suggests it's all probably tied to the Cerberus assembly. You know, we saw that. We heard about this Ludinus Deleth fellow that was working with Odahan. Like this is all connected. Ashton says there's actually 3 other people that might know what's in those crates besides Gianna, and I could potentially reach out to them. Suddenly, there's yelling from the hall, a call to arms. Soldiers are rushing through, donning armor as they're going, and they hear yelling that's saying, "They're after the load, defend the load." And that's where the episode ends. So, a bit of a cliffhanger. But yeah, that was episode 32 of Critical Role. Jeremy, great job. Anyone that actually made it to this part in the video, thank you so much. We will have back to our regularly scheduled programming here soon. It is Thursday, so we don't have to wait long for this new episode. And yeah, I feel like I'm forgetting something I need to mention, but I think that's pretty much it. Again, if you're on that recap video, I don't normally talk to a stuffed animal, so check back next week, see what's actually going on. And y'all have a fantastic see, I'm lost. I'm lost without Blake. How do we even exit these videos? I don't know. Jeremy, thumbnail? Thanks, Jeremy. All right, y'all. Have a good one.